Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Battle of the Shorts. We are in week 5. Can you believe it, Greg? I can't. This is my co host, Greg Bear, as always. And today we're going to be breaking down 4 short stories from classic science fiction and fantasy. We have some great authors today, some super bangers. Let me get my board out and I will show you what we're going through. We have Robert Silverberg with Passengers, an award-winning short story, versus Michael Bishop, The Windows in Dante's Hell, and then Ursula K. Guin, really well-known, famous author, with The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, I believe is how you pronounce that. She's going up against Louis Shiner with Till Human Voices Wake Us. Those are the 4 short stories that we're going to be talking about today. Before I get into those short stories, joining me today in the beach chair, in the my butt in the beach chair. I don't remember what I called it last week. Joining me this week in the beach chair, for all of my booktube friends out there, I'm trying to promote one of them each week, a different person each week that's really cool in the space. This week we have Bob from Bob's Books. She also sells on Whatnot. Give her a follow on both of those platforms. She's a great booktuber and bookseller. Would highly recommend going and checking her out. As I said, this week, Robert Silverberg versus Michael Bishop, and Ursula K. Le Guin versus Louis Shiner. We have 2 authors that I have not really read anything of, Michael Bishop and Shiner, and then 2 that I've read several things of, Robert Silverberg and Le Guin. First matchup, here we go. We have Robert Silverberg's Passengers here in the best of Robert Silverberg. Really cool cover here. And then we have Michael Bishop's The Windows in Dante's Hell in Damon Knight's Orbit 12. The Silverberg that I read is called Passengers from the year 1968. It was nominated for a Hugo in 1970, and it won a 1969 Nebula. So a very decorated short story here. We begin with our main character who awakens out of an experience, kind of delirious, that all human beings have started to undergo, where an alien race, unidentified, doesn't really get into anything about the aliens, has the ability to inhabit human beings' souls and minds and bodies and kind of overtake them for a period of time. This is called writing, or the human being being considered the mount. And so we come out of this experience with this character where he kind of is retracing his steps over what might have happened over the last few days that he was being ridden by an alien passenger. The story has a bit of sexual, not graphic sexual stuff, but just implications of things. So it seems that the aliens, when they take over a body, a lot of times they will get into drinking, drugs, sex, do things to basically use the human as the vehicle for those things and not have to experience it for themselves, I think. And so that's kind of inferred that human beings are essentially like the needle for the drugs to go in, kind of. So they wake up pretty delirious and don't remember things. There's kind of this accepted communal contract among human beings where they just don't talk about what happens. They don't talk about the experience afterwards. Most of the time, they don't remember. But our main character in this case, he does remember. And he starts to retrace his steps, realizes that he's been with a woman for the last few days, and just kind of goes about his business until he sees the woman and approaches her. Our main character, Charles, approaches this woman, Helen, and essentially takes a huge risk by breaking the social contract and talking to a person he realizes was a part of his last ride. He remembers her from the experience, even though his memories are kind of cloudy of it. He then pursues her, and they have this sort of 1984 Orwellian meetup where they kind of, not in total secret, but sort of, he does it against the social contract. She does it unaware, but they sort of start to interact with each other. And there's just this really sharp, dark ending to this short story that I won't give away, but is really well wrapped up and just kind of punches the point home. Silverberg does not pull any punches in this story. It's really good. It has a ton of weight and implications about kind of society and the control and predeterminism and just kind of the way we interact with people based on social contracts and things that are maybe deemed taboo. And it's creepy. It's got a really creepy air about it where human beings just kind of are possessed. It's like normal everyday, interactions with humans, and suddenly one could just be possessed out of nowhere. So it has that kind of creepy feeling around it that is really unique. Well deserved for the awards that it won and was nominated for. Silverberg yet again knocks it out of the park. I gave this one, Passengers by Robert Silverberg, an 8.5 out of 10. I keep really hitting some home runs with these short stories. I believe my research is paying off. For everybody that has maybe taken a look at the giant list of short stories that I've compiled for this series, I try to do a ton of research on each and every one of these short stories to find, if I could, and owned a copy of a book that had it in there, to find the absolute best short stories I could by each of these authors. Now, that's subjective. I'm not really sure exactly about some of these authors, if they have the short stories that are going to match with some of these powerhouses like Silverberg. But that brings me to Michael Bishop. A great segue into an author that I have never read, but I've seen a decent amount from when you go into bookstores and you go into the kind of vintage science fiction section. Bishop is usually there. He's somebody that I believe was a part of the new wave. This was in the kind of early to mid 70s when these short stories were published. And so you got Le Guin in here, Aldous, Gene Wolfe, a lot of great names. Bishop's somebody that I have kind of been drawn to, but again, like I said, have not read. And in the windows of Dante's Hell, I was struck that I have been missing out on Michael Bishop. In this story, we follow a character named Mr. Ardrey, who works for the biomonitor section of the city that I believe just kind of monitors human beings as they are living, and they're alerted when people die. He's alerted that an old woman has passed away, kind of down in a sort of lower district of the area that they live in, and his boss's son Newlin is kind of under his wing and being kind of tutored by him in the ways of biomonitoring. And so the two of them descend into this dome-like structure, kind of that takes you, the further down you go, it's sort of kind of a representation of classism. The further down you go, the more kind of blue collar that things are down there. And Bishop paints this really, really distinctly weird world here, where there are people who ride these rollerblades, kind of like futuristic rollerblades to get around quicker. And Newlin, being from kind of up top where it's rich, says that looks really cool. And Mr. Ardrey, kind of being a little bit more experienced in the world, is like, "Trust me, kid, it's not what it looks like. Those are used for like efficiency. They're not used for fun." And so little notes like that in the world building and in the characters' interactions with the world have nods, like I said, to classism and just interesting themes pointing to that exploration of rich and what they experience and poor and what they experience. They arrive at her apartment and they find that the apartment is filled with all of this kind of old school tech that she kind of worshipped the previous generation of technology and of like entertainment and just the way that it engages with people. And I think this society that these two are currently living in has passed by the old way of entertainment, of TV and things like that. And so we have these four windows that are stationed, and they, each of them could be kind of a TV of sorts that display different things on a screen. I thought Bishop's world building was really unique. I thought it was memorable. The prose were very new wave and fun, and just moved at kind of a pace and functioned in a way that kept the pace going pretty quickly and forced you to pay attention. Bishop really impressed me here. The ending was weird. The middle was weird. The beginning was the only part that I kind of understood. And I feel like I'm going to return to his work at some point because he feels very underrated. Don't really hear him discussed. And maybe this is one of the better works that he has, and it's why he doesn't get discussed very often. But I'm intrigued, and I feel like the ambiguous and kind of creepy ending that I will not spoil In classic science fiction fashion, the ending really abruptly stops and just screeches to a halt with kind of a lasting image in your head that's burned in there. And I thought Bishop did just a really good job of telling this story from front to back, keeping you engaged, keeping you on your toes, and just never letting up. He almost beat Silverberg. It wasn't quite as good as Passengers. I believe Passengers, I think 8.5 feels fair for Passengers. Almost bumped it up to a 9. It didn't feel quite as good as Connie Willis's Firewatch that I read in week 1, so that's why I gave it an 8.5. But Bishop, The Windows in Dante's Hell, which is a great title, Bishop gets an 8 out of 10. And that does it in a really close matchup. Robert Silverberg edges out Michael Bishop by half a point. 8.5, 8. Great matchup, great short stories, would highly recommend them. Let's go to the board. Not very shocking, Robert Silverberg takes down Michael Bishop, but it was shocking that it was so close. If it would have been a tie, I think I would have probably went with Silverberg because it won a Nebula and was nominated for a Hugo. I think that probably would have edged out the tie, but props to Michael Bishop, probably the most underrated author that I have read out of this list of however many I've gone through so far. Up next, we have Ursula K. Guin going up against Louis Shiner. Two quite different authors, two quite different stories. In this battle, we are returning to Mirrorshades from just a couple weeks ago when I reviewed Pat Cadigan's Sinners.
Nope.
This time, we're visiting Mirrorshades to read Louis Shiner's Till Human Voices Wake Us. I have not read Shiner, I don't think, but he is, as you can see, a cyberpunk contemporary of a lot of authors that I have a lot of love for. William Gibson, K.W. Jeter is not in this, but he is kind of that contemporary. Louis Shiner joins the list here because Till Human Voices Wake Us was a really good short story. It didn't knock my socks off, but it certainly kept my attention and was very, again, like fun read. Cyberpunk always has a certain excitement to it that just never lets up. It's not quite as punchy and as neon infested and metallic, and you can use all the adjectives for cyberpunk you want. It doesn't quite feel as cyberpunky as most other ones that I've read, like Gibson and like Pat Cadigan. Our main character he's kind of this company man. He brings his wife to a sort of company retreat on a private island. The company is very wealthy, and there's some kind of nods to colonialism, if you will, and just the taking over of island spaces from people native to that space and just using it as a resort. Our main character, Campbell, and his wife, almost divorced wife, are in the last stages of a broken marriage and they're nearing divorce. We see them diving in the very first scene off the coast of this private island on vacation, and Campbell thinks he spots a mermaid. They have it out at dinner the next night, and it pushes him further away. It pushes her further away. She leaves, and the main character, Campbell, from across the bar, sees who he thinks is the mermaid. He recognizes the face, and he's very intrigued by this. And in just a dreamy like sequence, he approaches her and, with his heart racing, decides to engage in adultery and take this woman, a marine biologist, back to her room. They do the stuff, and he kind of sneaks out. Doesn't seem ashamed, but seems to be aware that this is the last nail in the coffin of his marriage. And the ending spiral of Campbell going out to seek the mermaid again and being just entranced by this specific person who he's encountered really has this, in classic cyberpunk fashion, descent into a chaotic, overstimulated and overwhelmed brain of a person who has just lost it all, and mostly at their own hands. Doesn't really speak to the previous things into their marriage a ton, but we can see, again, like I said, the final nail in the coffin of their marriage was him cheating on his wife. And so she leaves. He drunkenly goes after the mermaid in the water, and we have a really wild last scene where he discovers some secrets that he's not supposed to have seen. The ending, man, it's a sharp ending. I loved the ending of this story. Louis Shiner, so I can see why this Mirrorshades anthology is so celebrated. There's a Gibson story I've read in here. The Pat Cadigan that I read 2 weeks ago is in here. And now we have a Shiner story. Really, really, really powerful stuff in here. I can't recommend Mirrorshades enough. I think Shiner from me this week, he'll get a 7.5. Based on so many of the other books that I've rated, that seems a little bit low. And trust me, it's not. I didn't feel that this held quite the gravity that some of the other stories did. So I'm kind of making sure that my scale it kind of stays true to itself as I go throughout these grades. And I don't have a sliding scale based on each week just changing. So I think 7.5 is like good to great, but not like overwhelming fantastic. So to be fair to Shiner, I really want to read Frontera, which was his debut novel that I believe won awards. And it's just somebody that I'm intrigued to really explore more of now. Shiner gets a 7.5 for me. And finally, our fourth and final story this week is the best short story of the week and the best short story I have read so far. Sorry to spoil it a little bit. Ursula K. Le Guin in The Wind's 12 Quarters has a short story called The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas or Omelas. Take your pick at how you want to say that. I read it in this really cool book club edition here with just a fantastic cover. You can see that there. And the story, it takes a different way of telling the plot. There really isn't a plot. It's more of a snapshot and exploration of a point in time in a city called Omelas that is a sort of utopia described very ethereally and mystically as just being this perfect place where they are celebrating the festival of summer and there's horses and everyone's happy and laughing and mothers are carrying their children through the streets. It's sunny. Everything is perfect in Omelas. And then we have this extremely sharp punch to the gut where we find out why everything is perfect in Omelas. I will not be getting into the specifics of that because I do think that this story is so powerful. If you haven't read it, you need to, and I don't want to take away from the gut punch that happens in the second section of this story and why it makes it so good. Makes it difficult to explore and discuss in this video, but I'm going to keep it pretty short because I think that this story is best left to everyone's interpretation and reading of them, like for themselves. I'm not very well read in a lot of classic literature, including Dostoevsky, I think, that she mentions in here. Yes, it is Dostoevsky, the brothers Karamazov. My buddy Luke will know. I believe he's read that one. But William James is another person that she references as being kind of the central idea that she explores in this short story. And I just had to really I wanted to do it the service that it felt like it deserved of being researched and reading the commentary afterwards, because the power that Le Guin writes with, the utter world-shaking descriptions and themes that she explores and ideas that she presents and challenges that she presents to each reader that flow from her pen. Everything that I have read by her just has this weight that so many other authors just fail to capture. And myself included, anytime I've ever tried to write anything, it is so hard to capture that weight of morality, of human experience, and just the density in which she writes and the crazy ideas in which she explores that are so relevant nowadays. It can't be overstated how great Le Guin is. She's fantastic. This short story is a 10 out of 10. It's the only 10 out of 10 I've given so far in Battle of the Shorts. Others have come close. This so far is leading the pack. The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, to nobody's surprise, Ursula K. Le Guin is a champion right now of the Battle of the Shorts through 5 weeks. Sorry, Lewis Shiner in Mirrorshades. You tried your best. You went up against a buzzsaw in Ursula K. Le Guin. Let's get Ursula's name here. And that'll do it for week 5 of Battle of the Shorts. I appreciate you as always for tuning in. Go give Bob a follow. Tell Greg you said hello if you see him on the street. He's such a good commentator. He's got such a way with words. This is Bo Jackson, if you didn't see. It's the cool bobblehead for the week. This series is done. I don't know what I'm doing. I hope that you guys are enjoying this. I'm trying to do a bit and make it a game show or a sports bracket sort of thing. But it's kind of discovering itself each week as I go through and I read these stories. I set up this set of sorts and just kind of goof around and talk about these stories. But I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys for watching this and commenting on it and just being silly with me. I know these kind of get long and maybe tedious, and I don't know if you skip around through them or just find one short story that you're interested in listening to. But however you're engaging with my videos, it really is it warms my heart that you guys want to talk about these books with me, because this is so much fun to engage with you. My voice is pretty hoarse. I've been talking this whole time. I am going to go read some more short stories, and I will see you guys in week 6. Thank you for joining me for Battle of the Shorts. Next Saturday, 9 o'clock, be there or be square. Peace out.